What is happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today is demolition day. We are going to be ripping this thing apart. So thank you for joining us. Again, if you're new here, basically what we do is we build specific things, DIY type stuff, and we make things better. Today we are working on our pontoon project, our newest addition to the channel. And what we're going to be doing again is taking everything from the deck level off so we can redesign this to a party barge like we want it. So that said, first step is taking that ugly roof thing off in 3, 2, 1. Bam, and there it is. So let's go on top of this thing and check this thing out real quick. So it's got some ladders. I'm gonna step on them. I don't know if I trust them, but I'm stepping on them. We're doing it. All right, so the people that had this before liked fishing, as you can see. We might fish, I don't know, whatever. But this thing is all gonna be ripped apart. So where we're at right now, we know that this is actually a really nice unit for a pontoon. It doesn't have wood floors. This floor is actually solid aluminum, which is rare and actually really nice. That said, the carpet has to go. I mean, you can kind of see that, but the furniture's got to go as well. So the first thing we need to do to get to all this carpet is to get off all this furniture. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to rip everything out of here. We're going to clear everything out, yes, including that toilet. That's got to go as well. Table's coming out, seats are all coming out. Basically, the only thing that'll be left in here, well, there's nothing gonna be left in here. We're ripping everything out. So let's go ahead and move forward and get that done. All right, so there you have it, guys. Everything is off the boat now. I can't even begin to convey to you how long this thing is. I know the video probably doesn't show it, but this thing's massive. And I'm literally walking at normal speed. It takes quite a while to get to the back of it here. So yeah, that thing's a pretty massive boat. But the floors, like I said, the floor is fantastic. It's all aluminum, there's no wood. So that's gonna be really easy when it comes to replacing and putting on the custom flooring that we wanna use. So what we're gonna do right now, next step is gonna be taking off all the railings. We gotta get all these things off here and the console itself to get to the floor, to get that carpet off. So let's go ahead and move forward and get that done. All right, guys, so the next part of this frivolous adventure, I don't really know what that word means. It just kind of sounded right at the time. Anyhow, the next part of the adventure is going to be removing the Bimini top, which is really simple. We have 4 pins. They're quick disconnect pins here, here, and then both on the other side. Those get pulled out, the whole thing will come off, and then there's actually a bolt in each one of those that drops down. We'll pull the brackets off because this Bimini won't be used. We'll be having 2 new ones that match. And then to continue on, we have a bunch of 3/8" bolts that are running all along the bases here that we'll have to take out, as well as a couple angled brackets here that you see. Those all have to come out. Once we get all that out, we should be able to lift this thing straight up, and also obviously loosen the controls. We should be able to lift that thing straight up and over top of the helm and get that thing off there so we can get this carpet off. So let's go ahead and pull that out. All right, so as you guys will see, the Bimini top is now off. I went ahead and I removed all the bolts all the way around all these units here, to include the bolts holding on the 4 controls. And actually the only bolts that I can't get off right yet are the ones down in there. If you can kind of see the ones down there, there's one on each side. And the reason why is obviously the fuel tank cells, or the holders or whatever they're called, are in the way. Now these aren't bolted on, they're riveted on, as you'll see here. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm actually gonna have to go ahead and drill those out. And I'm okay with that because I'm gonna put all brand new rivets and more of them anyways, because it's kind of flimsy, it moves kind of easily. So I wanna secure that a little bit better anyways. In addition to, the rails are pretty much loose now, or the fence is pretty much loose. So with all the bolts off, I haven't moved them yet, but yeah, they literally weigh nothing. So they'll come right off fairly easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull all these off, drill the rivets back there, pull those 2 bolts out, and then we'll get all the rest of this fencing off and show you what it looks like. All right, guys, check that thing out, man. That thing looks like a submarine or a missile or something. That thing is just wicked looking. I can't even begin to explain to you how long it is. For a pontoon at least, the thing just looks huge. Anyhow, let's walk up to it. You see how long it takes me to get there, to get you guys into the shot. I had to go ultra wide. Anyhow, if you look right now, all the fencing, everything is off the tune. And we're still left with the center console here. Obviously that's got to go out the helm or whatever they call it. I got to take the battery out. And then what I have to do is I have to get the 4 controls out, because obviously they're in the way at some point, because I'll need them out of the way for doing carpet or flooring. But I'll have to take basically the main steering unit away from this, unbolt it, pull it back through so I can get all that stuff out as far as wiring and cables and stuff. Once we do that, I think actually before we do that, we're going to pull off all the edging. And so you'll see that there's some bolts going around the edges here. I actually think that these were replacements because all the rest of it's riveted. If you see the wear, and I'm sure that's probably from a dock over the years kind of hitting this thing back and forth. So if I go to the other side, you'll notice that it is all rivets. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw out all these rivets. I'm going to pull off these edges. And then we're going to see exactly how easy it is to pull off this carpet. Keep in mind it is an aluminum body, an aluminum floor, so it's not like old wood where it's going to peel right off because the moisture's gotten to it throughout the years. So let's go ahead and get these edges off and see what we can do. Alright guys, so we got all that stuff off now. The only thing again we have left to take off is that captain's helm. Again, I think it's called a helmet, whatever, and the battery box back there. So now we're back at the point where we're looking at the carpet. We want to see how easy it comes off. And at this point, you guys can kind of see what I mean about the floor. You can see how it's aluminum and how much bracing there is across it. I mean, I couldn't have got any luckier with getting something like that. I mean, that's actually really nice to have. So let's go ahead and see if this thing peels off at all. Well, it's not super easy, but I'm feeling like steam might help that too. But again, keep in mind this is aluminum, so this is not like wood. It's, you know, the wood gets moisture in it and it just peels right off. I feel like there's probably a good way to get all this off, but I am confident that it all has to come off before we put the new flooring on. So that's going to be some work that I'm going to look into. But before I get into that, I just kind of wanted to preview if that was able to be taken off. I went ahead and looked at the battery box. It's not bolted down, so we're just going to pull that off, pull the wires through. As far as the captain's helm, I think, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure either it's bolted from the top and I have to take these teak wood pieces off, or I have to get to it from the bottom, which I have not been under here to look. I can't really see. So let's go ahead and move forward and see what we can do to get that thing off. All right, guys, so there is the battery out. Obviously, that was simple to take out. It wasn't bolted down. There was only 2 nuts holding it in. And then as far as console, that's coming out now. If you look, I took apart the front fascia here to access the 4 screws, 1 in each corner. Those will come out. And then looking underneath it, if you can see, we got some wiring to take out, and then a little bit of steering work. That whole thing should come off. And then just a little bit of preview. I just went ahead and pulled this carpet back here since it rained. It was soaking wet. You can see how clean it came off. Actually really easy. I think there is a little bit of glue on the back corners here along the edges where the framing goes. So that'll take a little bit of work to get off. However, most of this glue that's on the stuff down here, I think a pressure washer would take it off and I won't even have to mess with nothing else. So that's good news there. But I'm going to go ahead and finish getting this off, and then we're going to start pulling off as much of this carpet as we can. All right, so I may have gotten ahead of myself, but I went ahead, before I took the console out, I'm out of breath saying this, cut around the wires and stuff on the carpet and just went ahead and ripped it all off. Just because I didn't want to delay, I wanted to get it off immediately because it is soaking wet. So I thought, well, it's probably the perfect time that glue is probably softened to rip it off, and actually it seemed to be just that. So here it is all off. Gotta finish again unbolting this right now, and then we'll have a completely clean, well, at least clean, free of junk pontoon, and we're going to take the pressure washer to last grime. So let's go ahead and move forward. All right, guys, so it is the next day. The day got kind of short on us yesterday, so we decided to stop and restart today. Anyways, moving forward, to continue, we're going to be working on the actual logs themselves. As you can see, there are some dents in these ones. We've kind of pointed them out at the start of the video. I brought a couple different tools to try to pull them out, a couple different pullers there. I don't know if that's going to work, so I have a slide hammer kind of DIY setup that I am going to use or make if it does not. And we're going to do everything we can to get those dents out. Also, you can see like the splash guards are bent, so we brought an acetylene tank to heat that up since it is aluminum, and get that bent out, as well as tips here. You'll also see there's a small little crack, maybe you can see that in here. We'll probably end up bending this out and putting some kind of JB weld or something in there, since I don't really want to try to weld it to get that fixed. And then last but not least, after having straightened out or whatever we can end up doing with it, we are going to polish the tunes out, so you can kind of see what I've done here. Just a little test spot, nothing big. Just did it by hand for about 10 seconds and it cleaned up pretty darn good. So I'm hoping that the rest of the tunes will shine up nice like that. Not so much for speed. It does help with movement of the actual speed of the boat. However, it just really makes it look a lot better. You can see how grimy that these things get from sitting in the water. So let's go ahead and see if I can get these things off with these suction cups. If not, we're gonna have to do it the harder way. All right, guys, so the dent pullers didn't work, and I'm figuring it's probably because there's almost a crease right here. And you know, this is also not thin like a body panel where it would just pull it out on a car. So while it is relatively thin, it's a lot thicker than a body panel. So before I went to the store to get the other parts to make that slide hammer contraption that I'm gonna make, I decided to start straightening some of these splash fins. And so what I did was I took the acetylene tank, I heated it up. It kind of takes about 20 seconds. Once you do that, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna take like a wrench like this, and you're gonna put it on there and you're gonna bend it back. Just make sure you get it up as far as you need to get that bend in. You'll notice after that 20 seconds, the metal automatically becomes lighter and easier to bend. You're just gonna kind of work it to the point it needs to be. And then I basically just took 2 hammers and kind of, you know, clapped them together, top and bottom, to get it close. Now what I'm doing is I'm clamping down this piece of steel square tubing, and I'm going to use a hammer to tap along this edge here to straighten it out. It's not going to be perfect, but it's definitely going to be a lot better if you just saw what it looked like a minute ago. So let me go ahead and finish that out and show you what it looks like. All right, guys, so there you have it. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. If you look at it from the edge, it's definitely going to do what it's supposed to do, a lot better than it was. Now, I do got 2 more to work on over here. You'll see them here. Pretty bad, not as bad as that last one. That one's going to obviously be a little bit of work. This one should be a fairly easy fix. So I'm going to go ahead and fix those real quick, see if I can straighten out these tips real quick, and then we're going to go grab that slide hammer. We're going to see what we can do about getting those dents out. All right, guys, so there you go. We have straightened out the bent nose syndrome. We've straightened out the splash guards on both sides. There's that side. Here is this side here. Both of them turned out, I think, pretty darn good. And in fact, I even made a slightly more aggressive bend on the edges of the splash guards to do a better job or more improved job from what it would do. So now I'm gonna run to the store, I'm gonna get our slide hammer equipment, and we're gonna start taking out those dents down there. All right, guys, so here is the slide hammer kit that I bought at your local HFT. So typically what I would do with this thing, this screws on to the end of this, and you can see there's threading inside here. So what I typically would do, or my idea was to do, is take a bunch of bolts and hot glue them to the seam here, and screw this on there, screw that on here, and slide hammer it out. Problem is that this is a really oddball size, like thin threaded, fine threaded, I'm not sure what it is. I don't know how I'm gonna make it work. So what I'm gonna do right now is there's a few different pieces. I'm just gonna hot glue those onto here for now to see if that works, just as a temporary test. If it doesn't, but it gives me hope that a bolt would stick to that, I will go ahead and buy some bolts, finding out what that thread is, run them across here and work them out little by little. Again, that was the plan. I just didn't realize this was an oddball fine thread, as you can see. I'm sorry, that side. If that focuses, there you go. Anyhow, let me go ahead and try to get these things glued on real quick, and I'll show you if this thing works or not. All right, guys, so the hot glue was a fail. Great idea, but bad execution. I believe the reason why is the glue sticks that I have aren't the correct glue sticks. Typically, when you do this type of thing, they use a specific glue stick, and it's a very hardened glue, and it does not come off well. You almost have to melt it off. So I'm going to try to attempt to get that specific glue. If that does not work, I may do like a light layer of JB Weld, because I know that'll obviously hold, and then I'll have to probably grind it smooth afterwards. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to see if I can find the glue. If not, again, we'll put this stuff on with JB Weld. However, if I do use JB Weld, I am gonna have to go get bolts because I don't want to ruin these pieces here. So let me see what I can do, and I'll get right back with you. All right, guys, so here is the slide hammer kit that we purchased from HFT. Basically what we'll be doing is we'll be using the slide here. The slide itself will adapt to this piece right here, and then it will connect to some 3/8 by 24 pitch by 1 inch bolts that we are actually going to be gluing again to these areas and slide pull hammering out. I went ahead and got the right glue now, so you'll see this is the original glue stick. That's just a typical glue stick. You can see the yellow inside the actual glue stick we're going to be using. This is made for dent pulling, so we'll see how good it works. If it does work, I will put a link for Amazon below. So let me go ahead and get this thing glued on and start getting ready to pull these things out. All right, so method 1 obviously didn't work. So we're gonna go to method 2, which is an air suction slide hammer. And basically all it is exactly what it says. You hook it up to a small compressor or a large compressor if you have it. Then you go ahead and essentially just turn it on. And I'll show you exactly how it works, but you turn it on, you suck to this thing and pull it out. So let me get this thing set up and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so all we're gonna do is we are going to turn the valve on by going straight down. We're gonna push it onto it, make sure it's got suction. keep hammering at it. Let's see if we can get this thing out. All right, so method number 2 didn't work, but it did not work at the same time. And what I mean by that is it didn't necessarily get all the dent out, as you can see, but it did get it out somewhat. So it's just, like I said, these pontoons are a lot thicker than like a body panel, so it's kind of tough. And if we go ahead and look at the one all the way here in the back, right here, it actually got that one out about, I'd say, half inch, maybe half inch out from what it was. So it's better than it was, but it's still got to be pulled out farther. As of now, we're going to leave them. They're not going to stay that way, but we got way too much content and way too many things to be doing to mess around with dents all day. So we'll come back to that, but for right now, let's go ahead and let's move forward. All right, guys, so it's time to fix these small holes inside the very tips of the tunes. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to use some JB Weld, and I decided to use the more liquidy kind, not the quick steel type JB Weld, and the reason why is it's more flowable. I want it to be able to get down into those holes the best it can, whereas the thicker stuff is just going to be matte on the outside of it. This is really simple. I'm sure you guys have probably done this before, but you're simply going to take equal parts of the stuff, and then we want to go ahead and we want to mix it together. Once we get a uniform color that is like a solid dark medium gray, we're going to go ahead and apply this as much as we can. I'm going to try to stuff it with my fingers down into the cracks to make sure that it gets down into where it needs to be to ensure no water gets in these tunes. So let me go ahead and... All right, and here we go. I got a little bit mixed up, and it's on the end of the nail I got here, and I'm going to kind of put it all over the hole right here as best as I can. Like I said, we want to be able to fill in as much of this as that we can. If you can see that there. So we're going to go ahead and fill it in as best we can. Then I want to go ahead and I want to take my finger and I want to rub it in because I want to push it into that crack. We'll put another layer on the outside of it, but we want to make sure that it gets down inside to where it's got to go. It may not be pretty right now, which doesn't really matter if it's pretty. We will go back and we will sand all the existing off. All the part that we really care about is making sure that it's on there and it's durable. And then we can even touch it up with a little bit of paint that's silver if we need it to match or something like that. But so there you go. That's really all you got to do. Once it dries, like I said, we'll sand it smooth, and at that point it should be down into the crevice. We're going to go, so let's go ahead and move forward. We're going to go ahead and we are going to clean up the actual aluminum itself. And what we're going to be doing to do that is actually sanding it and then acid etching it and washing it, and then we're going to attempt to polish. So we'll see kind of how that works. But if you notice, we've already did some trials for the polishing. You can see it does shine pretty nice. However, there's some grit and nastiness in it. That's because this has never been polished ever since it was new. So there is even little areas you can see little weld marks that are stuck to it from where they didn't clean it up. But if you'll notice the difference between that and that right there, the main difference there is that we actually used a 2000 grit sandpaper prior to polishing it out, which got rid of a lot of that junk. So what we're going to be doing is taking a orbital sander, which you see right there, and we are going to use the 2000 grit sandpaper that's on it along with the hose to wet this thing down and get the whole thing lightly sanded to smooth out. Then we are going to be doing an acid etch, which is basically this stuff right here. It's Starbright Aluminum Cleaner Restore. If you don't want to spend the $25 for the quart or whatever this thing is, you're more than welcome to use some battery acid. If you have that laying around, I actually have some. That's why I only bought one of these. And all we're really going to be doing is we are going to be doing in basically 3-foot sections, but we're going to be getting this thing wet first, and then scrubbing the crap out of it for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then rinsing it off. When all that thing's done, it's supposed to be etched, so it's going to be a little bit tougher to polish this, but we're going to attempt it. At least we can make it look somewhat uniform, because when we look at it now, other than my obviously areas I've already tried to polish it, you can kind of look down and see all the grime on here, and that's not coming off. So we got to find a way to somewhat clean that. Even if I can't polish it, I at least want to get it somewhat more uniform looking. So let's go ahead and attempt to start sanding. All right, guys, so check this out. Now, this isn't going to be a product review because this is not a sponsored video by Starbright. So I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it actually does, realistic terms of it, and what its purpose is. Again, this is self-etching, or it's etching the metal itself. So when you first spray it on, you might think, well, it's not really doing anything. So if we look at this, it does look cleaner for sure. It's definitely a lot lighter, but you don't really realize you're going through and you're seeing spots kind of like this right here, and like, man, it's not doing anything. But let me show you the difference from the area that was done and that wasn't. See the separation? So with the exception of a little bit that I got on here, you can see how much it cleaned it. It actually did a really good job. It's not necessarily fluid in that it makes it a perfectly like painted looking surface. It's pretty much just making it lighter. So again, we're going to test polish it after we get this side over here done, over top of our already polished areas. Hopefully that'll show us some true end-all be-all results. Some people talked about how it doesn't do a very good job of polishing afterwards because it's etching the metal and the metal becomes rougher. It doesn't feel rougher to me per touch, but again, I can't speak to that. So anyways, this is kind of what this product does. I'd hate for you to go out and spend 25 bucks per quart or whatever size it is to not have your real expectations taken care of. But if you just look at it, I mean, you can see the back, it is etching and it is getting some of the discoloration off. But it is not all that smooth. One thing I did do is I did wet it first. I heard a lot of reviews saying that you need to wet it first to get more of a fluid result. Less runs basically, and I can still see some runs. Don't really care. Again, I plan on those being gone when I polish it. I'm really just trying to get a lot of the grime off. In regards to the organic grime, the stuff on the bottom, you can still see it. It's still there, and it didn't take it off. So that's like the scale buildup or whatever. You might be able to take that off with like a CLR or something. I have not tried. So that just tells me that pretty much from here down is not going to be able to be polished. So I have to make a choice. Either I polish the top halves of it, leave the bottom the way it sits since that's in the water anyhow, or I just basically etch the whole thing and leave it this nice bright whitish silver look. So I'm going to test the one section in the front. If I don't like it, I'll re-etch it, and hopefully that'll give it a smooth, even finish, or as even as it's going to get for what you see. And we'll see what happens from there. So let's go ahead and try that. Alright guys, so just a little bit more footage on what the actual product does. On the back of this tune here, I went ahead and just sprayed it. I didn't scrub brush, do nothing with it, just let it drip down. And you can kind of see the difference and what it took off and what it kept. But I want you to notice something. I want you to notice this grime right here. Now see, I thought this was organic matter. I was wrong. So when I go back to the side that I did scrub and coat here where I thought was organic matter I could scrape off, I went ahead and took a flat-headed razor and scraped it, and you can see that's actually aluminum. So what has happened is this aluminum is oxidized. Now, what that means for me is the only way that I can polish these tunes out would be to sand this down to the point where it was smooth. You know, probably 200 grit, 400 grit, 600 grit, up to 2,000 grit, and then polish it, which is possible, super time-consuming, but possible. The concern I have is the fact that pontoons aren't very thick. So yes, they're thicker than a car panel, but not very thick, and I don't really want to go take a material off them because I don't want to weaken it, because what a lot of people don't know is even polishing the surface of it weakens aluminum. So while it looks cool, it does weaken it. So I'm kind of thinking that it may just stay like this, even though it's not the greatest. It's not really bad, and it's definitely a lot better than it was. So I'm going to hit it with a couple more coats to make sure that all the ugliness disappears back here. And when that's all done, I think I still have to adjust the dents and the stuff back here, but I think that's going to be good. You can see this is only one coater, so I need a second coat all that, get all that done. But let me go ahead and finish that up, and then we're going to move forward. So on the next part, we want to go ahead and move forward and work a little bit on the trailer. As you'll see, and you saw on the original video, the taillight here has gotten, well, it's seen better days. And if I had to guess, I'd say that was somebody probably pulling out of a dock or something, or somehow or another taking too not wide enough of a turn and caught something. So we're going to go ahead and use a sledgehammer, maybe a little bit of heat, and some large pliers to get this thing bent back to fit that light back in there. We also have a little paint to do on this trailer, which is odd because it's a galvanized trailer. I assume these corner pieces must be steel since they're rusting. But more importantly, you can see this one's bent up. We're going to try to form that back the best we can without having to cut it off and re-weld it. So let's go ahead and get those things repaired real quick. So check it out, there's the tail light. It turned out actually really, really nice. I didn't think it would bend back that well, but it did. We actually ended up with a little bit of a crease up here, but man, for what it was, I can't complain. As far as the side part of the fender, that one didn't work out as good. I was able to get it to push down and out a little ways, so we got the nice clearance on the fender, which is what we needed from the tire. But there's really just no getting that out without cutting it off and welding it. To me, it's not that important. It'll be fine. So what I'm going to do now, I went ahead and grabbed some Perfect Match duplicate color paint. I'm going to hit some of these areas that are rusted with some paint so they don't continue to rust, obviously. And then after that, I think that's probably going to start summing this build up as far as the disassembly. We have a little bit of paint over there as well, so let me go ahead and let me hit that and I'll be right back. All right, so there you have it, guys. Check it out. It looks so much better. It's absolutely incredible. Just all the little stuff, how it builds up, the way it changes the look of a build, and how much nicer it can turn out as you start doing some of these little things. It's crazy. And this is just a very small portion of the way there. We got so much more stuff to come. Gosh, if you guys see how much stuff we have ordered, it's absolutely insane. I know UPS, FedEx, and the rest of them absolutely hate us. That said, I got a ton of stuff, as you can see, to clean up, so that is a wrap for this video on the disassembly and repair of the actual party barge itself. Stay tuned. Click that bell notification down below if you guys are interested in getting notifications right when these videos come out. We got a ton more content coming up. I'm trying to make it as fast as I can for you. It's just, there's just so much for these projects and so many things that have to be ordered. So I'm trying to keep it all in order for you guys and make it somewhat easy to be viewable as far as a video. So do me a favor, if you like today's video, if you like the content, you like what we're doing, throw a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe. You guys will get a chance to see all the cool projects that we do and have done in the past. That said, see you later. I'm out.